Hello, welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I am Big Italy 42, joined here by Josh Shepherdson at BChad50. And we're here talking about, tonight's big slate on Friday nights, as they always are. Tuesdays and Fridays, your biggest day. And a ton of games tonight. There's a weird game at 2:20. There's some all-day slates if you... don't do it. I'm not even gonna justify it anyway. But either way, monster slate we've got tonight. Tons of great options, and me and Josh are gonna go ahead and run down every position for you. Ready to get going?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you're looking at pitcher, if you know anything about baseball, you know Max Scherzer and Matt Harvey, your top two options on the night, talent-wise. They are facing each other, but you've got a nice low total. I believe it's a 6-run total right now. Yep, and pick them. So literally do that. Pick them. Pick one of the two that you like. Both guys pitching very well. Harvey, actually a slightly higher strikeout rate, slightly lower walk rate. For me, if I'm taking one of the two, it's going to be Harvey because he does have the higher ground ball rate. I guess the walk rate's very marginal, but I mean, he does keep the ball on the ground better, and that's the thing that I like to target. So also think that a lot of people will be on Scherzer at a $200 difference. For me, I'm taking Harvey. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong. If you want to do it the scientific way, you could flip a coin and pick between the two. You're going to get a big strikeout rate. You're going to get quality starts from both, I would imagine. Neither lineup is terribly imposing at this point. Nationals are really dinged up. Mets lineup playing well, but they're still without David Wright. So there's definitely some chinks in the armor on both squads. I'd expect both pitchers to pitch very well. So you really can't go wrong laying your cash games groundwork with either of those. And there's enough soft price points around the diamond that we're going to highlight that you can use them in GPPs as well. But there's some other names that you and I both like in the pitcher talent pool tonight, and guys that aren't in a pick'em, so you have slightly better odds of getting a W, which is always important at FanDuel.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to put that in perspective, you and I were building some tentative lineups before the show, and my lineup currently has Matt Harvey and has $200 left. So if I change my mind later, quick switch. Not too hard. So, like you mentioned, tons of soft pricing. And the other guys we were talking about, Scott Kazmir is pitching very, very well right now. We know Texas, not a very good offense outside of Prince Fielder, who's off to a nice start. Adrian Beltre kind of getting it going, but outside of that, it's hot garbage. And Scott Kazmir at 9,200, we were talking about it. It seems a little bit pricey, but I mean, I don't blame you if you want to go that route because the guy's been tremendous this year so far.
Yeah, and I mean, what you lack in the upside of Harvey and Scherzer, you make up for in the greater likelihood of a win. So, I mean, Kazmir, tough to go wrong there. I think that he's going to be lower owned than Harvey and Scherzer, which is always desirable in GPPs. So, I like those two. I'm looking at Carlos Carrasco, and I'm having a hard time not using him. The Toronto Blue Jays, lots of power bats, which always scare me a little bit. Carrasco, great strikeout rate last year, second in FIP among pitchers who threw at least 90 innings as a starter. So, I mean, he was putting up just insane numbers last year, got off to a good start, was roughed up by the Tigers, but the Tigers have a tendency to do that to lots of very good pitchers. So, not going to hold that against him, but big strikeout stuff, great ground ball rate, great walk rate, and if he can navigate a couple of tough hitters in that Blue Jays lineup, some of the bottom of that lineup is some hot garbage that Carrasco can pile up strikeouts on. And in case you haven't caught the theme of the day, hot garbage is the theme of today's podcast. Other names, who else are you looking at?
Well, one more thing I wanted to mention about Carrasco we were also talking about before the show is this is not necessarily deterring me from playing Carrasco because I still like him and his price point and everything, but he's thrown 88 pitches in 6 1/3 against Houston while he was dominating, so there was no reason for him to get pulled there. 60 pitches against the White Sox, and due to tightness, they said, is why he got pulled there, and 91 against Detroit. So, not saying don't play him, but I'm just saying don't expect him to pitch 8 innings because it doesn't seem like he's going to be going that deep. But, I mean, if he gets you 10 Ks, you probably don't need 8 innings anyway. So
That's true.
All right. Yeah, some of the other guys, Anthony DeSclafani, we were talking about. The guy's been tremendous, especially against righties. In fact, he's only given up 4 hits total against righties this season. 3 of them have been singles. Struggled a little bit with lefties, but I mean, at 7,700 against an Atlanta lineup that Mike Leake didn't allow to have a hit for the final, from the 3rd inning through the 8th inning. Not a single hit from this lineup. Only lefty bats you worry about. You've got Freddie Freeman, of course, AJ Przinsky, but are we really scared of AJ Przinsky, or is he just swinging a hot bat right now? I mean, this guy's got great stuff, and he's been pitching well. So, I mean, at 7,700, I think that he's in a fine spot.
Yeah, I mean, the only other lefty is Nick Markakis, but again, he's not the type of of hitter that you say, gotta fade that starter. Can't have that lefty platoon split exploited by Nick Markakis. So I like Esclafini. He's actually currently in my lineup at FanDuel that I've constructed now, and I like the price point. 7,700 is a really good price for a guy who's a betting favorite tonight. So Vegas expects him to get the W, and has some strikeout upside. So a lot going for Desclafini. I'm a fan myself.
Yeah, one other guy I want to throw out, and then I know there's a cheap guy that you want as well.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Big Salad here. Tom Kohler, $6,600, facing off against a Philly offense, which is, if not the worst in the league. I haven't looked at the new numbers as of today, but they might have bumped up. They scored a couple runs yesterday, so they might be second worst in the league against righties now. But at 6,600, I mean, Kohler's not a dominant pitcher by any means. He's not a big strikeout guy, 13%. But, I mean, he's efficient. He pitches, fairly deep into games. Went 7 1/3 against Washington last time out. Got the win. 15.33 FanDuel points. So if you want a cheap guy that's going to eat up some innings, that's pretty much all he's going to do. I don't mind him at all tonight.
No, and he's a betting favorite, so you're looking for that W. And again, if you're chasing the W, $6,600 is a nice price to get 4 points plus whatever he piles up for innings. Yep. So I like the Kohler call. I'm kind of thinking in the same vein with my cheap arm at $5,900. Chris Heston and his big ground ball rate gets the Angels. Now, the Angels are coming to San Francisco, so they will not have the luxury of a designated hitter. They're playing at AT&T Park, which we know suppresses runs. And they're likely without Albert Pujols, who said that he hopes to return Saturday or Sunday. So as of now, don't expect Pujols to play. Maybe he gets a pinch hit appearance if he's feeling fairly well. But that lineup just does not look as daunting when you remove a designated hitter and Albert Pujols from it. Basically, it becomes the Cole Calhoun and Mike Trout show. And not going to say that Heston's going to throw up ask Posey to throw up four fingers, but not going to say that he's going to be challenging Trout either with little behind him to really threaten him. So big ground ball rate should keep Trout in the yard, which always helps. Maybe he'll hit some screamers through the infield. That's pretty much Mike Trout. He's going to take what you give him and just smoke the ball. But that's not a lineup that scares me. And at $5,900, Heston's a betting favorite with a low total at home. You can do a lot worse, and the luxury that he awards you to spend elsewhere on some guys that actually do have there are a few players with some jacked up prices with favorable matchups is pretty nice. So I'm going to probably use a little bit of Heston in GPPs. Going to reserve him for GPPs though, just not quite established enough for me to feel comfortable rolling with him in cash games. But I'll get some Heston exposure.
Yeah, and you're going to love this stat that I looked up. I'm looking at all the team numbers against righties, against lefties, and if you had to venture a guess where the Angels rank against righties this year is in terms of team WOBA.
24th.
27th.
Wow.
They're awful. A 279 team WOBA. I was pretty surprised that it's that low. 21.1% strikeout rate, just a 106 team ISO. So, yes, it seems like a tough matchup on paper, but I mean, you look at the numbers, and numbers don't lie. They've been pretty bad against righties this year, so that's just
it really is the Mike Trout show. Yeah, I mean, it's the Mike Trout show, and a whole lot of mess.
Yep, absolutely. So I like that call, and he's nice and cheap. I mean, not that FanDuel's making it too difficult to get big hitters in your lineup, but if you wanted a little bit of help getting all of them, Chris Heston is your key. All right, moving on to catcher here, where Buster Posey's against a lefty. I think we can just move on from that analysis to the next thing.
Yeah.
He's at only $3,500 tonight. AJ Brzezinski, if you're not playing Desclafini, he is still hitting the ball really well at $2,900. I don't mind him. I still love Stephen Vogt against a righty, and just so happens to be a really bad righty in Colby Lewis, who we like to call Swiss because he just poke holes in him all the time. Anyway, enough of the terrible jokes. Stephen Vogt against righty, I love at $3,100.
Yeah, I mean, those are basically the three main names that I'm looking at. A couple secondary options I've got in mind. Victor Martinez, switch hitter, going to get Chris Young, not an imposing matchup. Good lineup spot, but I'd probably rather pay the $100 to get Posey in my lineup. $3,300 for Brian McCann. Justin Masterson is a train wreck against left-handed batters. McCann has above average power, so if you're looking to chase a home run in your GPPs, McCann looks like a pretty good bet to me, but I would rather dip down $600, grab Mr. Evan Gattis against lefty Roenis Elias. $2,700, good lineup spot, big power, great ballpark at Minute Maid Park. So I like some Evan Gaddis as well. And for once, we've got a half dozen options we rattled off at catcher that we don't hate. It doesn't even feel right.
No, I know. I feel like we're gonna find out half of them aren't even in the lineup pretty soon now. But we gave you plenty of options for once, so get yourself one of these catchers. Not hard to fit them in. And over at first base, FanDuel decided to jack up a couple prices here with Miguel Cabrera and Paul Goldschmidt, 5,300 and 5,200 respectively. Certainly don't mind either guy. They're both great plays whenever they're on the mound. I mean, Goldschmidt against a righty doesn't lose much for me. It's a bad righty. Either way, I think you could be fine with either one. Adrian Gonzalez, of course, in play, and still love my boy Joey Votto, priced at $4K. I mean, FanDuel is hooking me up every Friday because I always play Joey Votto on Fridays, and you will likely see him in all my lineups again at that price tonight.
And the beauty of rolling with Votto, especially in GPPs, is at the same price point, you got Jose Abreu. I would expect Abreu to have higher ownership. He gets and I understand the usage of Abreu. I mean, the guy is fantastic. He's from another planet. He gets a righty today in Kyle Gibson that does not miss bats, low strikeout rate. So anytime you get a power hitter like Abreu facing a pitcher who is seeking contact, that's the kind of matchup that I like. But all things considered, I'd slightly prefer Votto against Mike Foltynewicz. Big power fastball and not a heck of a lot else. And I mean, Votto, if he's pitch seeking, he can hone in on his own and absolutely hammer the hell out of the ball. So those are two great names. I like Freddie Freeman if you're not using Anthony Desclafini. $3,500. He does get that favorable side of the platoon split against Desclafini as a lefty. Same price point. Here's my GPP dark horse guy that I like. Switch hitter Mark Teixeira, $3,500. You're going to get that left-handed batter exposure to Justin Masterson. Masterson's still a train wreck against lefties. Mark Teixeira has 4 of his 6 home runs this year against right-handed pitchers as a left-handed batter. I took me a second to spit that out, but it is there. And so I like Teixeira tonight, but you want your shocker special or your salary relief guy, I'm dipping down to $2,500 to Mike Napoli, and I'm getting some exposure to CC Sabathia, who is an absolute dumpster fire right now against right-handed batters. He got hammered by them last year, was hammered by them 2 years ago. This is not peak year CC Sabathia, and he has no answer for right-handed batters. Love Napoli. Napoli hammers lefties, and because there's such good value at first base, I think a lot of people are going to fail to scroll all the way down to the bottom and see $2,500 Mike Napoli sitting there. So I'm going to get a lot of Mike Napoli tonight, and I think he's a guy that's going to set you apart in GPPs.
Yeah, I'm with you there. One more guy I'm going to throw in there real quick. Matt Adams. 8 hits over his last 3 games, 6 RBIs. He's $3K. Fairly tough matchup against AJ Burnett, but I mean, you go with the hot hitter there. I don't mind that at all in some GPPs at 3K. All right. Moving on to second base, where I have 3 guys that I like. You agreed with the 3 guys as well, and these will likely be the only 3 guys I play. You can throw out some more guys if you want to as well, but Jose Altuve against a lefty, D. Gordon against pretty much anyone. He just so happens to be going against Jerome Williams, who is pretty bad against lefties and righties tonight, so that just plays well into his favor. Pretty slow delivery as well, which just feeds into that even more. And Brian Dozier, last night's darling against Chris Sale, going up against Jose Quintana, and I love the Twins tonight as my favorite dark horse stack. So $2,900 for Brian Dozier. Yes, please.
Those are the top 3 names for me as well. The other 2 names I'll throw out there, Robinson Cano against Samuel Deduno. Deduno's junk. Cano is a very good hitter against right-handed. I mean, he's one of the best hitters in baseball against right-handed pitching. Hard to go against him. Gets the advantage of playing at Minute Maid Park for once, so gets to escape Safeco, which isn't the worst ballpark in the world for left-handed batters, but Minute Maid, really nice ballpark for him to play in tonight. And getting some more right-handed batters against CC Sabathia. I like me some Dustin Pedroia tonight. Good price point. So at $2,900, he's another option that's sitting there right at the same price point as Brian Dozier. So I like both. I mean, those are the only names, but that's 5 names at second base that you can reasonably go with that all have fairly high floors and ceilings. So and great price points on all, with the exception of Altuve. But that's That's going to be part of the fun of getting some Altuve exposure. $4,500 is probably going to scare a few owners off, especially those who are rostering Matt Harvey or Max Scherzer. Might play into a little bit lower ownership than you'd expect from Altuve against the lefty.
Yeah, and the guy is just ridiculously good. He has at least 2 hits in all of his last 8 games. I'm sorry, each of his last 8 games. I mean, the guy is just a hell of a hitter. It's incredible what the guy does. And I mean, still just flies under the radar, and it just baffles me. I mean, the guy's tremendous.
Definitely.
Speaking of tremendous, Matt Carpenter at $4,100. I don't care who Matt Carpenter's facing. The guy is another tremendous hitter. I mean, if you pair him and Altuve, your floor is insane. Both guys have some upside. I mean, Matt Carpenter, another one of those guys. 6 multi-hit games in his last 8. Batted second yesterday. Whether he's batting first or second, I almost prefer him batting second because maybe he gets a couple more RBI opportunities if leadoff hitter, whichever one of these hot garbage hitters it may be, and John Jay or Peter Borges. But either way, I mean, Matt Carpenter just does it all. So you got to love him as your top option at third base.
Yeah, and this is probably going to be the first position that we don't have a lot of depth in terms of options. It's Matt Carpenter, or I'm digging into the bargain bin for a name that I know you like. You hinted at your dark horse stack being the Twins. Part of that stack will be none other than Trevor Plouffe, who is very cheap. Plouffe checks in at $2,400. I would expect him to hit cleanup tonight against a lefty, so you get a great lineup spot. You get Carlos Quintana, who struggled with righties a bit this year, and I mean, it's the preferred split that you would like with Plouffe anyway, even dating back to last year's numbers and Quintana's career. Much better against lefties and righties, so you get Plouffe at a good price in favorable platoon matchup, and Plouffe is very good against left-handed pitching. So if you're not grabbing Carpenter at $4,100, I'm dropping down to $2,400 to grab Plouffe, and there really isn't much in between that I'm looking at. Maybe Chase Headley, switch hitter against Justin Masterson, but I'm really not terribly enamored with him. Kyle Seager at $3,000 against Samuel Deduno is a good price point, but again, it's pretty much Carpenter or Plouffe for me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I mean, just to further the point on picking on Quintana here, he's allowed a 442 WOBA to right-handed batters this year. 14 runs in 14 and 2/3 innings. They're 26 for 71 with 6 doubles, a triple, 2 homers. I mean, the guy's getting mashed by righties. I love it. They're all cheap. It's an easy stack to get in there with some big bats, a nice top of the rotation pitcher. So I mean, there's a lot of things going in that favor. So moving on to shortstop, Troy Tulowitzki. He's not in Coors Field. He's actually in the opposite of Coors Field, a.k.a. Petco Park. But Ian Kennedy has just not looked himself. He's a guy who struggled with the long ball throughout his career anyway. Now he's not striking anyone out. I mean, he's walking almost 10% of batters, which he's always kind of had struggles with walking batters. But, I mean, he's just not been good. He's been much worse against lefties over, I'm sorry. I'm looking at 4 innings so far. So scratch that last part. But either way, Ian Kennedy just has not looked good this year. And I expect that Colorado is going to put some numbers on him. And Troy Tulowitzki at $4,300, he's not hard to fit tonight.
No, and I mean, he really is every night the best offensive shortstop in the game. So it's hard to argue with him wherever he's playing against whatever handed pitcher he's facing. If you've got the budget, Tulowitzki gives you an edge at shortstop. There aren't a ton of other names that I'm looking at. I do like Marcus Semien hitting second against Colby Lewis, who's bad against hitters. Not just left-handed hitters, not just right-handed hitters, just hitters. He's bad against all hitters.
I love it.
If you stand in the batter's box against Colby Lewis, you likely have a favorable platoon situation. So I like Semien tonight. Hate Desmond's lineup spot, so I'm fading him entirely. We mentioned Xander Bogaerts before the podcast. Keep an eye out for his lineup spot. If he hits in a favorable lineup spot, you got to like the boost. But even if he doesn't, you're getting a righty against CC Sabathia. Hard to fault anybody for wanting to run Bogaerts out there for $2,900. There just are not a lot of good hitters at shortstop. So I like the price point. I like the platoon advantage that Bogaerts gets. So Bogaerts will be on some rosters for me.
Yep. Only one other guy I'm going to throw in there, feeding into the Twins theme, is Danny Santana, if you'd like to call him that. $2,800. He's got 7 hits in his last 4 games. I mean, not a guy with much power, but steals the occasional base. Should be batting up near the top of that order. And, if you're going with a twin stack, hence I'm going to have to get myself some Danny Santana. And I don't mind that price at all.
No, that's true.
All right, moving on to the outfield, where if you're not playing your boy Chris Heston, Mike Trout is always in play because he's pretty good at baseball. And I mean, just the numbers this guy puts up is just absolutely ridiculous. The catch he made yesterday, you don't get any fantasy points for that, but my God, that catch to save the game. The guy, he's so much better than every other baseball player. It's ridiculous. So if you can play Mike Trout, just get Mike Trout because he's just so damn good.
And it's fun to root for him. I mean, let's be honest. Who doesn't like watching him play really well? Like, if you like excellence, and you should like excellence, Mike Trout's the guy for you. So, I mean, we can always gush about Mike Trout every podcast, and we probably will because we like Mike Trout. But a couple other outfield names that we're looking at that are not Mike Trout. You got right-handed batting Hanley Ramirez against CC Sabathia. Weird. I know, wanting to pick another right-handed batter against CC, but that's the world we live in right now.
Hanley only has 10 home runs, though. What the hell?
Yeah, what's his problem? Why doesn't he have 20 already? I mean,
he Billy Hamilton after tonight.
Yeah, that would be a record, I think.
Yeah. No
Billy Hamilton leading off against Mike Foltynewicz. I do expect the Reds to put some runs on the board, so grab the leadoff hitter, watch Billy Hamilton get on base, watch Billy Hamilton run. Always a fun thing to do. $100 more, a guy that I think will be slightly underowned because he's only recently moved up in the order. That's Jock Peterson, $3,600. Hit a leadoff dinger on Wednesday against Ryan Vogelsong, who was serving up dingers to everyone.
You get a dinger, and you get a dinger.
Yeah, love Peterson's skill set, big power. Gets to play at home against Ruby De La Rosa, who's not very good against left-handed batters. So I like Jock Peterson. I like Mookie Betts at $3,100. Great lineup spot hitting leadoff for the Red Sox. He's right-handed. We've got a theme going here. And then Chris Carter's another name that I'm looking at. $2,600, left-handed batter, or facing a left-handed pitcher. Seems to be heating up a little bit, and he's at home, and he's moved back up in the lineup, hitting a favorable lineup spot last night. So I like Chris Carter a bit tonight. Lots more names to pick from. Who are a few that you like?
I still love David Peralta. I mean, he's going against Carlos Frias, who struggles against lefties. He's only $2,800, priced up a little bit, but still more than easy to afford. If you're going with the Twins, Torrey Hunter, the guy that you're going to want to get some exposure to. He hasn't been particularly great this season, but he's hitting in the heart of that order. He's only $2,400. If you're looking for, Cole Calhoun is another guy you're going to consider, of course, there. If you want a guy that's not in a good lineup spot but has been hitting the ball well, he's got hits in 9 of his last 10 games with four multi-hit games. Jacob Marisnick at $3,300. The guy's got a terrible lineup spot most nights, but he's been hitting the ball really well, and that's why his price is up. No one's going to look at him, so you want a really under-the-radar guy swinging a hot bat. I don't mind going that route. As far as cheap guys, there's not a whole lot of guys that I love. I mean, there's a ton of guys you can consider, but I mean, when you can really get guys like David Peralta at $2,800 or Chris Carter with his upside at $26 against a bad lefty, I mean, I don't really see any reason to force any of these bad players in there, unless Kevin Kiermaier gets what he finally deserves, and that's hitting first or second in that lineup. I don't know what else the guy has to do. $2,400. I mean, just let him hit second today against Tillman. I don't need first. Give me second, and I'll play the hell out of him.
I'm thinking he kicked Kevin Cash's dog. Like, that's the only explanation we have
Seriously?
here.
He hit on his wife or something? I mean, he did something.
I'm going to echo your sentiments. The only cheap names that I'm looking at are Kiermaier, like you mentioned, $2,400 Torrey Hunter, and then a couple of $2,500 Chicago White Sox, Melky Cabrera and Adam Eaton, both hitting favorable lineup spots. Both are going to be batting left-handed against Kyle Gibson, so does not miss a lot of bats. Again, high-contact guys, plays pretty well. I think both have a little bit of upside. Neither has a ton of power. Both have a little bit of pop. Both can steal a base, but you're looking for multiple hits if you're grabbing them. You're not looking for that one long ball, and I think that they can deliver that. But beyond that, I'm not looking cheap. I mean, you have enough money to be saved elsewhere. Spend in your outfield tonight. Don't be thrifty.
Yep. I'll tell you there is one more guy that I feel bad for even missing here, but Ryan Rayburn against a lefty against Mark Burley tonight, $2,300.
Yep.
Got a lefty last night. You got 3 hits. They were all singles, but I mean, at $2,300, you get 3 singles again tonight. You're more than happy with that.
Definitely.
All right, that's gonna wrap things up. Follow us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Check out our DraftKings podcast. Will be coming out here in a little bit here as well. All of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com for tonight's slate, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.